Hello. How's everybody doing? If you can hear me, just put a all is good in the chat. Awesome. Hi, Michael. Daryl, David, sweet. We got lots on today. Jackie, hey. Awesome. Hi, Morgan, Kevin. Walter, hey. Awesome. We got a full crowd. Well, this will be great. So we'll let everyone filter in. Make sure everyone gets that time to settle into a nice comfy spot. If you need a glass of water, this is your cue. Grab something something to snack on if you like, a cozy blanket. We'll have a great afternoon. Hi, Carolyn, Tracy, Tammy. Everyone's here. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Hey, Sharon. Good job this morning. If you weren't on Sharon's webinar this morning, again, all of these webinars will be live later on. So you'll be able to go back, refresh, maybe hear how other facilitators have presented information and learn some new skills that way. It's always good to hear things in a different way and from different facilitators too. Hey, Jer. Awesome. So we're at 1 after 1 right now. Hey, Maxime. We'll get started and we'll let people join in the chat as they log in and get Demio working. Thank you to all the work that's gone on behind the scenes to make this a reality and get these webinars off the ground. So my name is Rachel, and I am a health promotion specialist here in Kingston. So it's been really cool to see all the different facilitators across the country be able to come together and bring the health promotion content to everyone. So again, today is about mental fitness exercises, and this info is from our mental fitness and suicide awareness program, which is within our social wellness pillar of strengthening the forces health promotion. So this is a Mighty coded course. So as soon as things are back to normal, check in with your local health promotion office and see when you can register for that full program to get that Mighty code. Because it's a great thing to have, and then sharing it in that classroom setting is always super beneficial too. Hi, Ted. Awesome. So before we get started, a couple of things to share. So this presentation, again, it comes from STF Health Promotion, and it is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. So any reproduction or retransmission of the slides is forbidden. We are recording them, right? So if you want to access them at another time, they eventually will be posted online. So don't worry about that. Some of the topics today might be of a sensitive nature. Again, this content is developed for people who are 18 plus. That is Health Promotion's mandate. So we know we're all in different scenarios right now. If there are children around, just use parental discretion. Maybe use headphones. Maybe just make sure they have, are occupied so you can have your full attention to for a little bit. Also, please understand that people's stories are theirs alone to tell. So anything shared in the chat, which is highly encouraged, still trying to get that interaction and learning from each other as best as possible. Hey, Cindy, checking out the chat now. And it's not necessarily to be shared outside of this webinar or the context of learning from this webinar. So keeping all of those details and confidentiality to the chat, and knowing that we can still take the lessons learned from that out into the real world. So that's the positive there. So again, it is being recorded, this webinar, and you can access that later on. Active participation is encouraged. So if you would like your camera turned on or your microphone turned on, let me know in the chat. I can do that. We will have some polls and handouts and prompts for the chat, so you can just type along and share that way too. Awesome. So a bit of the housekeeping out of the way. I'm going to start off today's presentation with a list of great resources that we have through CFMWS and the CAF specifically too. So if you're not familiar with health promotion, we do focus on harm reduction, right? So thinking about prevention education and giving people the tools they need to make those healthy decisions for themselves and for their own life situation. So our work doesn't specifically focus on anything clinical or treatment of any sort. So if you do require emergency or clinical support, these resources can help you find that. Civilian resources can also be accessed through your EAP program or your HR team. So we have CIFMAP, the Canadian Forces Member Assistance Program. We do have the Canada's Suicide Hotline, more information on COVID-19. This is really important right now, especially because there's a lot of information all over the place and that can be super overwhelming. So picking that one trusted source to get your information helps to filter out all of that noise. Great for mental health. Family information line. We also have the Sexual Misconduct Response Center. So recognizing not everyone's home is a safe situation, so you can access resources that way. And the Kids Help Phone if you're concerned or if you are a youth. So with that, starting off with the resources, I'll again give you a reminder of these resources at the end of the presentation, and we'll be all set. So the plan today. Number one, again, find a comfortable spot. So we will be here for about an hour. You might want a pen and paper. It's not required, but there are some little activities or prompts that you might want to just write down yourself, do a little reflection yourself. So take a moment, maybe grab a pen and paper. Again, if you missed it, water is good to have, right? Sip on some water, snack away if that keeps you focused. And that way we can all enjoy the information. We'll talk about mental fitness and resiliency. So getting an idea of what that really means to us and how we can relate that to our life and what we already know about it too, right? Because this isn't the first time. I'm sure a lot of us have talked about mental health, mental fitness, or resiliency. So please do share what you already know in the chat. We'll also review stress. So we did focus on stress on Tuesday. We had some great facilitators providing webinars then, but we'll review some of that today because it's very relevant to why we would be using mental fitness exercises. We'll review Mental Fitness 101 and then get into the practical and be able to put into practice some of these exercises. Sound good? Thumbs up. Again, any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to share in the chat. I'm able to see that chat throughout, so I'll be able to answer them right away. So first thing, what is mental fitness to you? So if you can think of one word, try to keep it as simple as you can. What is mental fitness to you? You can take a second to think about it. Resilience. Nice. Endurance. Yeah, Morgan, definitely. And we think about fitness as physical fitness sometimes, and some of those physical fitness components can start to have the same language when we think about mental fitness. So that's going to be really helpful to build that language around mental health. Fortitude, I like that word. Being happy and positive, yep, definitely. Active, again, that physical component or physical fitness language can be used for mental fitness for sure. That's great. So starting with that, it's great to hear where everyone is with what they feel like mental fitness is to themselves, right? And maybe you feel a little bit different. Maybe it's something else to you, like attitude, Walter says. So recognizing that we all have a different perspective is awesome. Something I did want to do before we started off as well was a quick poll. I did have it set up here. I think I can pull it up. So I'm just curious who's joining us today before we go any further. So I'm sharing that in the poll section. What group best describes you? Are you a regular reserve member? Are you a family member, a veteran, or civilian staff? I meant to do this a slide before, but we'll do that now and see who we have joining us. This will just help the conversation, figure out who we have in the chats today, and make sure you get the appropriate information. Awesome. So we have about 52% Reg Reserve members, 3% family, 3% veteran, and 41% civilian staff. Awesome. Very cool to know. So that's who we have joining us today. And so once we're talking about, how we view mental fitness, we also want to think about what our strengths are, right? So we know what mental fitness is to us, but what are our strengths? So I have this activity that I'm going to share with you in the handouts. So I'm going to find this share it with you. So in the handouts tab, you can find the resiliency quotient and you can download that. And you can just use either, a mental check. You can write down, you can use the PDF that I just shared. Go through these statements and check if you agree or disagree, right? So this is checking in with our strengths of resiliency, right? So I think Kevin was the first one to say that's what mental fitness was to him. And so resiliency is going to be a really key component that we're talking about today. So as we're going through the statements, the first one, I'm able to adapt to change easily. So you can check if you agree. And again, the question is, what are your strengths today? Right? And asking that, what are your strengths today, is really, really important. The reason why is because it's not always going to be the same, right? If you can check off an item today, it may not be there in the same way tomorrow, right? It also means if you can't check something off today, it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to check it off. Okay, so further illustrating this idea that resiliency is actually not genetic, right? We're not born with a certain amount of resiliency. We have to build it, and it is one of those muscles that we have to exercise and build over time. So making sure we go through the second one. I feel in control of my life. Agree or disagree. And again, it's okay, not there today. By the end, you'll have a score out of 12. So if you would like to share it in the comments, you definitely can. You don't have to. And this could be a good check-in. It might work for you on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis, where you check in, maybe graph it if you're a numbers person, and see how your resiliency scores over time. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. That's awesome. And again, we're all going to be at different places at different times. So the next question is, what does every person on this planet have in common? What do you think? Something that binds us all, and no, it's not a concern about COVID-19, although that is pretty common right now. Something more general. What does everyone have in common? You can share it in the chat, whatever your ideas are. Emotions. Yeah, we all definitely have emotions. Specifically, is there one? Yep, stress, being home, Heather. Yeah, and that can also be stress. So those fears come out. Yeah, lots of feelings of stress for sure. So stress is an interesting emotion. Can bring up challenges, right? Yeah, we all have core values for sure, Morgan. Great answer. Confinement, right? Well, to remain alone in that feeling of stress. It might feel lonely sometimes, but do know that it is a normal human emotion, and we are wired to feel that way too. So something I like to compare stress is an elastic band, right? So stress can sometimes feel like an elastic band. Try and get this in the camera, right? So when you pull a new elastic band and it has maybe a really thick material, it's nice and bolstered, right? It's a bit harder to pull it apart. It takes me a lot of effort to pull it further away. And when I let go, it snaps back pretty quick to its original size. Now, if you take an elastic that maybe has been held out for a long time, right? It's been stretched for a long time. Maybe it hasn't had a lot of opportunity to come back to its normal shape. Maybe it's gotten thinner in its material. You can start to see some breaks in the material. When you let go, it kind of flops, right? Doesn't come back to its natural shape as easily. So what our resilience is essentially that elasticity. We should be able to stretch out, right? That's normal. Stress is normal. But the goal is to limit the amount of time that we're stretched, right? To come back to our normal shape for as long as possible. And again, that's reducing that chronic stress or chronic stretch, right? So we're trying to reduce the amount of time that we're stretched out. So what stretches your band, right? What causes stress for you? If you'd like, you can share it in the comments. Again, a little refresher on stress and just reflecting on some of these things. Kids, work, those things are very much intertwined right now, I'm sure, which can also stretch out hands. Finances, definitely. Technology, tell me about it. Trying to figure out Demio this morning. I'm sure for people working on different apps and all that now too. And technology in general. Awesome. So try to go back one. There we go. So what stretches our band, right? Some of these things might seem familiar too, right? Too much of everything. Yeah, there's lots on the screen right here. So overloaded schedule, maybe commuting or lineups, right? Different ways to line up now, trying to figure out these new rules that we have. What can be really confusing about stress though is how some of it, we think of it to be negative right away, but positive events can also cause us stress or stretch. So it could be, pets, right? Love them, they could still cause us stress. Other things, we see first dates, right? Parties, movies, all of those things are positive experiences, but they can still be stressful. So recognizing that helps us to take some of our blinders off to stress and recognize a little bit earlier some of these signs that we're feeling overwhelmed, and then being able to implement things like mental fitness exercises to reduce that feeling of stress. So how do you know that you're feeling stressed, right? If work, finances, all of these things cause us stress, how do we know that you're stressed? For me, this is my embodiment of stress. I want to Control Z, delete everything, just stop, right? I want to kind of take everything off and just all the work off my desk and just close my eyes, right? Or maybe I'm reaching for a lot of stimulants like coffee, right? I have this need for coffee. And so that can be a sign that I'm really stressed out. Lack of sleep. Sleep disruption, very common, right? Headaches. Get more short with people. Thanks, Taylor, for sure. Getting more sensitive. Irritability, right? All these signs. Yeah, and feel free to keep sharing in the chat there too, because we all have different signs. But again, building that awareness of the events that stress us out more than not, and the signs that we're becoming more stressed give us more tools to know how to start those mental fitness exercises earlier, right? So preventing that stretched feeling, reducing that amount of time that we're stretched out for. So a lot of these signs and symptoms can be applied to the mental health continuum model. So this mental health continuum model is a tool that we use in the CAF, and it was developed through the US Marines. So we've been able to apply this as a tool mostly to use for yourself and just recognizing those early signs. So I'm going to share with you a mental fitness exercise card, and it does have this mental health continuum model on it, so that you can see it a little bit easier, because I know that font isn't great. So you can open up that photo image. You can zoom in on the mental health continuum model, and you can follow along that way too. So we start off with the green, right? So we have lots of signs in here of what a green might be for you. So normal mood, right? Could be normal amounts of energy, physically and socially active, those sorts of things. And then at the bottom, we also have ways to stay in the green, right? So ways that you can maintain this, because it's not easy. It doesn't just happen, right? It takes work to stay in that green feeling. We also can move into yellow. So this could be irritations, right? Frustrations, low energy, right? And this is where most people live. On a day-to-day basis, we're often bouncing back and forth from the green to the yellow. Right? And these are just descriptions of signs or feelings we might be having. It's not necessarily diagnostic. It's just a way to keep track of how we're feeling. And it gives us some language to talk about it too. Like, I'm feeling in the yellow. Whereas beforehand, maybe we didn't have those words to be able to describe how we're feeling. So if we don't recognize we're in the yellow, right? If we don't recognize the headaches, the increased sensitivity, the increased irritability, then we may progress and find ourselves in the orange or even the red, right? So this is where we might need to seek out more support professionally, potentially clinically, and find that through those resources that I shared at the beginning of the webinar. But it's key to remember that mental fitness exercises can really fit in at any point in time, and they can always help you get back to the green. So again, that spectrum means that flow state, right? So we can be in the yellow and we can get back to the green, right? We're stretched out a little bit further. Maybe we're in the orange. It's always possible to get back to the green. We might be stretched to our red, and that's okay. We can definitely get back to the green. So keeping that idea of hope, and recognizing that, you know, life is complicated, and even if we haven't experienced these various stages before, life is hopefully long, so we never know when that might happen. So being prepared and being aware of those signs. So take a moment. If you did grab a pen or paper, then write down some signs, some keywords of what the green looks like for you. The green is a holiday. Yeah, and how can we bring that holiday feeling into our everyday lives too, right? So thinking about what green is, and you can write that down on your piece of paper as a nice reminder, or you can share that in the chat to give some other people ideas. Green for me, I feel nice and relaxed. I feel like I can focus on one thing at a time. I'm not bouncing back and forth between tasks a lot. Peace of mind. Yeah. I feel like, honestly, in the green, I'm a little bit more sarcastic because my brain is a little bit sharper, right? I'm a little bit quicker with the jokes, things like that. So that might be green for you. It could be a sign you're getting more irritated, right? So that could be a difference between people. Energized, relaxed. Awesome. And then think about, you don't have to share this, but what are some signs you're getting into the yellow? Again, write those down. And we did mention some of them a bit earlier, those signs that we're getting stressed, like irritability and overthinking. So just compare and contrast that feeling of green and yellow. Again, just building our tools, building our vocabulary to know when we can bring these mental fitness exercises in earlier for that prevention. Wait for my slide to click forward. Being a bit slow. I think it jumped forward too fast. There we go. So this is our goal, right? So when we can recognize earlier in our green, maintaining that green, or in our yellow, how to interrupt the stress response, bringing in that relaxation response instead. So as feelings of stress comes up, maybe we're in fight and flight, our heart rate is increased, maybe our breathing has increased. You know, our dangers are much different now than they were when we were running from tigers in caves, right? So we want to make sure that we recognize, you know, when that stress response is actually appropriate, and interrupting that stress response with the relaxation response brings that physical state of deep rest, and we're able to change these physical and emotional responses to stress. And those responses are the things that degrade our health status too, right? So by implementing the relaxation response, we decrease our heart rate, decrease our blood pressure, decrease our rate of breathing, and release some of that muscle tension, right? So that's getting our elastic band back to normal. So for me, initiating that relaxation response, like logging off technology, right? That's a big stressor for me. Being able to take some time in nature, be able to focus on my breathing, be able to focus on the things around me. And then I really find that my creativity increases. I get different ideas for webinars, right? So thinking about that relaxation response, what it is for you, and how you can implement it. So you might already have some ideas that work for yourself, but we're going to practice some other ones today and potentially give you some more ways to implement that relaxation response. So when we think about mental fitness and we compare it to physical fitness, someone who's physically fit might have high cardiovascular endurance, right? What else might be some of those components of physical fitness? Anyone have any ideas those components of physical fitness are? Start with cardiovascular, right? So that ability to run for long distances, keeping that heart rate steady and efficient. Flexibility, yes. Strength, for sure. We also have things like agility, right? So that moving quick back and forth. And again, these are things that we can start to think about in the sense of a fit mind, right? So instead of just a fit body, thinking about a fit mind as well. I think Morgan had said earlier on too, that endurance, right? So bringing in that language of physical fitness around mental fitness. So starting off with mental agility, this is when we're able to think rapidly and creatively, especially under stress, which is especially needed now, right? When we're in different environments, maybe different working schedules, to be able to keep our mind quick, right? So a fit mind has mental agility. A fit mind also has a high ability to have attention, to pay attention, right? And the brain pays attention not by a spotlight, right? Not by focusing on one thing, but by a filter. So our filter has to be quite strong to prevent noise from entering. Sometimes, and put your hand up or say, you know, me in the chat if you're a great multitasker. Do you think you're a great multitasker? Anybody identify that way? Yep, Carolyn says for sure. Never. When I'm in the green. Good point, Taylor, for sure. So the concept of multitasking is really interesting and definitely relates to attention. So a lot of the time we think we're multitasking, but we're actually switch tasking, right? So the brain isn't actually able to focus on two things at a time. We're flipping back and forth between focus at a very, very fast rate. So science has been shown that people don't spend more than 3 minutes on a task at a time. And when we bring that over to digital tasks, that number drops to 2 minutes at a time. So something that can be really great is increasing that amount of time that we're working on something for. So that's like our endurance, right? Our mental endurance, being able to focus on one task for longer and potentially getting into more of that flow state. Right? So when ideas come easy, when we're not distracted, when creativity is really at its peak, is when we're focused for more than 3 minutes. So thinking about that idea, right? Are we multitasking or switch tasking? Emotional intelligence is number 3. So a fit mind definitely has emotional intelligence. And this is actually stated to be one of the most desired qualities in job recruitment and interviewing. Why do you think that's so? It's because that's what makes a human, right? It's something a machine can't do, having that emotional relation to other people. So we're aware of emotions, of whose emotions? Ourselves and of others, right? So there's two things at play there, aware of our own emotions and the emotions of others. We're able to regulate our own emotions. We know that we can't control other people's emotions as much as maybe sometimes we wish we could, but we are able to handle relationships of other people and the relationships that we're close with as well. So a fit mind definitely has high emotional intelligence. A fit mind also has something called situational awareness. So situational awareness is often in relationship to our environment, our tasks, and our goals, right? So having the appropriate reaction to all of these things combined. So we could be a variety of things. We could be tuned out, right? And tuned out might be, for example, you drive the same route home every day. You don't really have to pay much attention to it. So you're kind of zoned out, tuned out. You're still getting there safely, but it's pretty automatic. We could also have a relaxed awareness, right? So that might be more like defensive driving. You're confident in your skills, you know where you're going, you know your directions, but you're just being extra aware of those actions of people around you. So defensive driving. A focused awareness might be instead when you're driving in particularly challenging conditions. So like heavy rain. This could require, that focused attention when you're really paying extra attention. And then finally, your awareness could be in high alert, right? So that could be that gasp feeling that you feel when someone cuts in front of you or pulls out in front of you when you're driving. It's that fight flight reaction, right? You're in that automatic stress response. So with all of these different types of awareness and attention, the skill with situational awareness is that making sure we're in the right state for the right situation, right? We could be in that high alert stage for a long time, putting our stress at a maximum, and it's not necessarily appropriate. So how do we interrupt that stress response and get back to an appropriate response? So these are the components of a fit mind: mental agility, attention, emotional intelligence, and situational awareness. So how do we strengthen our mind muscle, right? If those are the components of our mental fitness, how do we build up that mind muscle, right? So we have our brain working out here. We do that through exercise, right? Just like our great fitness and sport instructors can give you an awesome program or are sharing great programs on Facebook and social media right now. There are exercises that we can definitely do in order to strengthen our mind muscle. It's important to remember, just like those great fitness and sports instructors would not recommend you run a marathon tomorrow if one, you've never ran in your life, or two, you don't enjoy running, right? So when we go through these mental fitness exercises, take that idea with you. This is like a test run. See if you like it, see how you feel, be open-minded, but manage those expectations, and that, you know, it won't be a cure-all, and not every single one will work for you. So try to figure out which one you like best. So again, this is that mental fitness exercise card that you had downloaded. And the mental fitness exercises are highlighted there in the green tab, right next to the mental health continuum model. So you can have this open if you would like during the next piece of the webinar, or you can just follow along with the webinar and reference this afterwards. I'm also going to share with you a great app that I really enjoy, and it is the Road to Mental Readiness app. So I hope that has popped up for you. I have the Apple link there. And if you're an Android person like me, you can click that download as well. Now, did those show up for everyone, or did it just change? Yep, you got them? Awesome. Cool. I haven't used that feature yet, so thanks everyone for being a good test group for me. So, we'll go back forward one here. So that Road to Mental Readiness app, I'll also reference throughout these next 4 mental fitness exercises. Some of us like having, you know, the mental fitness exercise card, having that resource tangible. Some of us like the apps, and some of us like to just practice and do it on our own. So trying to provide a little bit for everybody here. And again, as we go through each exercise, I just encourage this little mantra for you to think about having a curious observation. So what that means is, as we're doing each exercise, be curious about how you're feeling. Think about the emotions that might be coming up. Think about, you know, is this working for me? Is this making me feel relaxed? Maybe thinking about where your breathing is, right? Is it in your chest? Is it in your belly? Are you getting nice and relaxed? Or is it maybe causing some anxiety? How does your heart rate feel? Right? Can you pay attention to how hard it's beating or how fast it's beating? Think about these 3 questions, and I'll prompt us at the end of each exercise as well. And these will be, this will be the way to have that curiosity about what really works for you, and to try and pinpoint those helpful exercises. My PowerPoint clicks forward. All right. So I think that went, yeah, awesome. Oh, it's blocking. Can you see it now? Still the app. All right. Delete featured action. I think I can do that. How's that? Awesome. Thanks for the heads up. We're a team in this, right? That's awesome. So tactical breathing. Tactical breathing is a great way to reduce the effects of the stress response, interrupting that stress response like we were talking about earlier in the webinar. So it rapidly reduces your anxiety and arousal, right? So that increased heart rate or increased breathing, bringing you back to that physiologically relaxed state. So taking those nice deep breaths. And tactical breathing might have, you might hear it described as yoga breathing, box breathing, any of those sorts of things is the same thing. But tactical breathing in particularly is really used, especially in the field, when maybe you're in exercise and practicing shooting, right? So you're able to take yourself from that highly aroused situation where your heart rate is up, you're really focused, and you're able to bring that back down to have that clear shot, to have a steady hand, and you're able to make those clear decisions a little bit better. So tactical breathing on the app is going to look something like this. And what's really awesome about the app is if you're a visual person and you like those prompts, it does have a circle that will expand and contract for you, so you can follow along with that inhale and the exhale. If you prefer to visualize yourself, you can visualize a box, right? So on the inhales, you're going up one side of the box, holding, you're going across the top, exhaling, you're going down, holding, you're going across. So you can think about that box breathing too, to keep yourself in that pattern. What we're going to do today is do a little 1-minute practice of tactical breathing. And if you haven't done it before, again, if you need to come back to regular breathing, that's okay. You can adjust as you need to, but follow my voice and my prompts as best as possible, and we'll be able to go through this tactical breathing. Normally, it would be done for 4 minutes, but we'll do just a little tidbit of a version, and then maybe this is something you try on the app following the webinar today. So get in your comfortable spot. Make sure you begin your inhales going right to your belly. So take just a couple deep breaths, not changing how you're breathing, but focusing on where that breath is really going. So is it going down deep into your belly? Is it still in your chest? Right? If it is, that's okay. Try to take that deep inhale down to your diaphragm. And if you can, aim to inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose or your mouth. Right? Inhale through your nose and exhale. I'm going to begin the prompts for the tactical breathing. So on your next inhale, inhale for 3, 2, 1, and then hold that breath for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 3, 2, 1, and hold. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Try a couple rounds on your own. And then come back to your regular breathing. Come back to the webinar if you've really gone off to your relaxation state. And now bring in that curious observation. So how do you feel? Right? Where is your breathing? Is it still in your belly? How does your heart rate feel? How did it feel throughout that exercise? The beauty of tactical breathing is that we all have to breathe, right? We're all participating in the chat. I can tell you're alive, right? We all have to breathe. But tactical breathing doesn't require any extra videos, right? It doesn't require any extra equipment. And people don't know you're doing it, right? So Walter says heart rate is down, feels calm, right? That's for free, right? You didn't have to do anything, get into any pose, read any book. You can just modify your breathing to be able to bring that relaxation response into any situation. So again, you can practice that as much as possible to make it an automatic response, and you can use apps or different prompts like the mental fitness exercise card to practice that more often. The second mental fitness exercise is practicing mindfulness. So I really love this little clip here. Is our mind full, or are we being mindful? Right, especially as our really only choice to go outside right now is for walks at a distance from other people, right? So what are we thinking about on those walks if we're taking them, or if we're taking time to enjoy a meal, right? Really making that meal time special now. Is our mind full, or are we being mindful of where we are? So this is an important reflection to try and interrupt that automaticity we might find in life, right? Our brain likes patterns, it likes routines, but this can sometimes be to our detriment because patterns that aren't necessarily helpful to our health start to become automatic or habit. So mindfulness can help us to build that mindful action rather than automatic reaction, right? So mindful action versus automatic reaction. So has anyone ever said, like, oh, on the way home, I'm going to pick up the milk or pick up the mail. Then all of a sudden, you're in your driveway and you think, oh, I forgot the mail, right? Or I forgot the milk, whatever it was. It's because you've taken that same route home every day, right? So your brain just completes it automatically. It's like, oh, yep, I know what's happening now. It's 4 o'clock. I'm driving home, right? And even though you want to try and change something, it's hard to do that sometimes. So this can be true even for our thoughts, right? So negative thoughts or reactions can start to pop up after certain events automatically, right? Without true reflection or understanding of the situation. So mindfulness is a way to interrupt that, to pay attention on purpose, right? And maybe take a different way home, right? So reroute the way we're going home in our mind, right? Trying different streets, going the long way around sometimes, noticing those differences and using that focused attention, right? If we remember those components of a healthy mind, that focused attention. It's also important to remember that there's no right way to practice mindfulness. It's just being in the moment. So a way we can practice this is if we're out for those walks, we can practice counting our steps or counting our breaths. That's something that can keep us in the moment and keep us from thinking into the future or about the past. If anyone has any other ideas of how they practice mindfulness, please share them in the chat. That would be awesome. You could also do so when you're enjoying a meal, really trying to focus on the flavors, right? Can you taste the different spices, right? Can you pick certain flavors out? Can you really focus on the meal? Diane says, listening and looking for the birds. Yeah, tons of nice, beautiful birds out. I saw lots of blue jays yesterday. It was an awesome day yesterday. Observation of surroundings. Exactly. And just being a part of those surroundings, right? Not necessarily having to take action on anything, just being thankful for everything. Even the small things, right? Gratitude. When you're practicing yoga, counting blessings, awesome. Really, really great things. So mindfulness produces that brain change, helps us to handle our emotions a little bit better, especially when we talk about thankfulness and gratefulness, reduces our perceived stress, and improves our mood and well-being. So we're thinking about those social relations, right? Our ability to bring that elastic band back. So the app has these awesome games, mental fitness exercises where you can focus on attention shifting, a card sorting game, a different focused attention game. So these are cool because they actually track over time too, so you can see your results over time, and they definitely keep your attention on the task at hand rather than floating into the future or into the past. So this can be a great strategy that you use as well. Next up is grounding. So grounding is a really great way to reset the brain, right? So it helps us to rebound and to refocus. It's really easy for the mind to run away with random thoughts or unhelpful thoughts. You're not alone. It does happen to everyone. Our brains sometimes don't work in our favor, and it can be very disruptive and frustrating. But the key, again, is to recognize these signs early in ourselves and to bring in an exercise like grounding to reset, improve our concentration, and come back to our green. So the exercise that's really helpful with this is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, it's on that mental fitness exercise card, so you can prompt yourself with this. Again, you don't need, no one else has to know you're doing it when you're doing it. So that's also very helpful. So I want you to think or to notice and point out in your mind 5 things that you can see. Right, so really pick out those 5 things. Then 4 things that you hear. Right, so really listen. Try to listen for those 4 things. Pay attention to 3 things that you can feel. Right, maybe you reach out for something and you can notice how that feels. 2 things that you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. Right, so we're going through all of our what in that exercise. For paying attention to what we can see, what we can hear, what we can feel, smell, and taste. What are we really paying attention to here? Any ideas? You can share them in the chat. Our 5 senses. Thanks, Dana. Yeah, senses. Awesome. So by focusing on our senses, it brings us back to the present moment and resets the brain. It doesn't matter if you couldn't exactly smell 2 things. The key is that you're only focusing on your sense of smell at that moment, which is what makes it that mental fitness exercise and how it resets the brain. So again, having that curious observation. How did you feel when we did that exercise? Did it maybe make you anxious because you couldn't check off all those numbers? Were you breathing nice and slowly though? Did your heart rate decrease or increase? Right, so all these questions are going to help us determine if this is helpful for us right now, or maybe we put it on the back burner and we're able to bring it out maybe in the future. Another good visualization is just imagining roots, right? So literal grounding. My little Bitmoji is turning into a tree here. So feeling your feet root into the ground can be a sensation to really feel that grounding as well. Again, the R2MR app has a different way you can input your answers here and make it more like a journal. And again, it tracks over time. So you have that, that information at hand in your pocket. And last but not least, we have self-talk. So self-talk are those messages, that voice that's inside your head. If you love books like I do, then it's kind of how you narrate your life, right? And so this is really important because it's active 24/7, right? So that self-talk is always going. So it really has the power in changing how we interpret events, how we perceive stress, and how we determine our reactions as well. So are we going into our fight or flight for a prolonged amount of time? Or are we able to bring in that relaxation response instead? So it's key to know that these negative thoughts will happen. Part of our brain, again, our brain is wired to find danger. It's wired to find those negative things. But the skill there is to reframe with maybe different options, or to positively reframe a situation. And that's really the skill. So we're going to practice that with a bit of a scenario. So you might be wondering why there's a burnt cake on the screen. So imagine it was your best friend's birthday, so excited. You're not a baker, but you want to bake them a cake. So you go to the store, you're super excited, you get a box mix, all's good. You bake it, and then you decide to give them a call while you're baking the cake, saying you'll be over in a bit, and you get wrapped up in conversation. You're having a good time. You realize you've just lost track of time and you've burnt the cake. So if you get off that phone, you see this burnt cake, and maybe you're in more of a negative mindset, what are some things, you can share them in the chat, that might be popping up in your mind? What might that narrator in your mind be saying? And share some ideas there in the chat. You're standing in front of that burnt cake. I just ruined her birthday. Yep. Full cake is not good now. Definitely. So we're making that there. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So you're bringing that whole character description to yourself. You're taking one situation, now describing it as a full character flaw. I don't have time to make another. Shouldn't have even tried. It wasn't worth my time. Shouldn't have called her, right? Or even talked to her on the phone. I can fix, yeah. Oh, okay, Walter, you're already getting to the positive ones. Awesome. So I can fix this. What are my options? So that is the start of a reframe. So if we're reframing, we're in that positive mindset, right? Time to buy a cake. More icing, Taylor says, more of the sweet stuff, right? Maybe you can, I love my cake crispy. That's awesome. Maybe you can make a trifle, right? So what are these other options where you can still celebrate the reason why you were creating that cake, right? It was to celebrate a birthday. Less calories if there's no cake. That's awesome. Cut the edges, right? You start to be more creative and creating realistic expectations and positive expectations. Amazing, Cindy. Yeah, you're at the why of the birthday, right? Spending time, having conversation. So this is a great exercise to really practice how to bring in that reframe, right? And having that curious observation between those two scenarios, those two reactions, which one feels better, right? Where's your breathing in each two versions? Right? The first one, you're probably freaking out a little bit, right? So your breathing is high, your heart rate is high, right? When you start to maybe bring in your tactical breathing and try and look at your other options, you decrease that breathing, decrease your heart rate, and probably feel a bit better and actually be able to celebrate. So we're avoiding those full character flaws when things don't go our way, but we're bringing in that creative thought. Awesome. Well, have a good laugh. Laughter is so needed. So again, you can go onto the R2MR app. There's different activities there, like challenging a thought, adding a new bookmark, celebrating different achievements that you have. So giving yourself credit for the things that do go well. And those are all really great resources to practice with. So as we get into our final minutes of the webinar, I'm going to share another poll with you. So we've gone through these mental fitness exercises. We have self-talk, mindfulness, tactical breathing, grounding. Which one do you think is the most important? So we're sharing that now. It should be live for you. Which one do you think is the best mental fitness exercise? And maybe it's something other, and you want to click that too. What is the best one? Give yourself a couple more seconds to select your answer. So far we have almost half of us, 43% say self-talk, 22% say tactical breathing. We've got mindfulness next at 13%. Grounding is 4%. Other is 17%. So curious, what other mental fitness exercises would you say are the most valuable? Diane, you got it. It's a bit of a trick question. I have to add a trick question in there. So the best one is the one that you're going to use, right? And so that's probably going to be different, maybe day to day, maybe week to week, maybe minute to minute. So having a bunch of mental fitness exercises in your back pocket will be super helpful. Sharon's is eye rest. Yes, we love Sharon's eye rest for sure. And you might try one, it might not work exactly the way you want it to, and so you try another, right? Having that curious observation. So it is the one that you'll actually use. So today's top 3 as we close off the webinar is to recognize. So what stretches your band, right? What gets you into that chronic stretch? Recognizing those early warning signs and reflecting on how your green feels, right? So what does feeling good mean to you? And how can you get back to that green when we're moving into potentially the yellow or the orange sometimes? Third is mental fitness. So what are those components of mental fitness? We have mental agility, attention, emotional intelligence, situational awareness, right? And we can build that mental fitness with our mental fitness exercises. So using your MFE card or the R2MR app are all very helpful. Again, here's our list of resources. So you can screenshot this. I'll leave it up. Definitely take advantage of them. Asking for help is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. Because again, we're all in this together, right? That's the hashtag going on now, and finding that help and that community during this time is really important. So if anyone has any questions, you can share them with me in the chat. My email is there as well, so you can take that down if you'd like to ask a question via email instead. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're at 2:01, so if you have to head out, thank you so much. And be sure to tune in for next week's schedule of webinars. There'll be different topics from different health promotion specialists again. So lots of more information to share, and we hope to see you there. Awesome. Does this count as a Mighty coded course? This webinar doesn't count, but again, as soon as courses return to normal and you can register for that mental fitness suicide awareness course, then you will get that Mighty code for sure. Thank you, thank you. Awesome. Have a great day. You stay safe too. See you, Cindy. No problem, Dan. Thanks, Walter. See you later. Have a good day, everyone. If you're still hanging out too, make sure you download any of those handouts that you need. And again, email me if you didn't get a chance to download them. That's all good too. Any thoughts on strengthening the mind when you want to quit on a run? Oh, that's really good. Yeah, so much of an endurance exercise and running is about that mental game, right? So there's a lot of different tools that people will use. Something that I tend to use is starting to count, right? So to kind of count your steps or count your breath. trying to take a different pace or a different stride to just change how that is through your body. And really trying to focus on that self-talk, right? So what's coming up in your mind? How can you reframe certain things? You wanted to go out on this run, so what are your goals, right? Trying to reframe that positive viewpoint, right? 1 kilometer, 1 step at a time, for sure, Maxime. And so that would be something that would come into play a lot, is that self-talk on those runs. Does that help, Morgan? Hopefully that helps. Yeah, okay, awesome. Good. And again, there's a lot of cool videos that you can research on endurance athletes or ultra athletes, and they almost they begin to reframe their relationship with suffering, like that physical suffering feeling or that pain. It's really interesting to hear how other people think about it too, and then that also becomes another option for you to reframe things. One of my favorite athletes is Courtney Dauwalter. She's an ultra marathoner, and her relationship with suffering is fascinating, and how she reframes that feeling during 100-mile races. So that could be something you look up as well. All right, so it looks like there's no other questions. I'm going to end the session. Again, feel free to email me if you have any more come up. Thanks, everyone.